जिस तरह से आज हर घर में ब्लड प्रेशर, शुगर आदि का पेशेंट है, इन फ्यूचर जिस दिन ये जेनेटिक मॉडिफाइड फूड खाने लगेंगे देश के लोग, शायद उस दिन हर घर में कैंसर का पेशेंट होगा। ये देश के लिए बहुत खतरनाक होगा।
In spite of so many reported harmful effects of GM food, the Food and Drug Administration of America, FDA, kept on ignoring the findings and declared these food items as safe for human consumption.
One gentleman in America took the US FDA to court. 44,000 pages which questioned the harmful impacts or the relevance of GM food for human health tumbled out of the cupboards there. And the US FDA didn't have anything to answer those things.
In fact, the overwhelming consensus among the FDA's own scientists were that genetically engineered foods were unsafe and could lead to allergies, toxins, new diseases, and nutritional problems. The person in charge of policy who overruled and ignored the scientists had been recruited to the FDA from Monsanto's law firm and later became Monsanto's vice president.
It's a classic case of vested interests wreaking havoc on people's health, because institutions that have been created to protect our health are actually hand in glove.
The multinational companies who are promoting GM foods claim that after the Green Revolution, the gene revolution is the next big thing to solve global food problem. They say the application of genetic engineering increases the productivity through improved crop varieties, reduces input costs and lowers environmental hazard. They even claim that the food derived from GE crops is substantially equivalent to other conventional methods of food production.
Given the evidence that we have today, these companies are telling an absolute lie for which there is no scientific evidence whatsoever.
I'm not against genetic engineering per se. Genetic engineering can be applied to human gene therapy. It can be creating medicines in the laboratory under very carefully watched conditions. But we should not feed the products of an infant science to millions of people or release it into the environment where it can never be recalled. We don't understand the language of the DNA. Yes, I am for DNA research, genetic engineer in laboratories, in carefully controlled conditions, but not in my intestines, not in my environment.
Driven by their sole aim of making profit and controlling the food production all over the world, the biotech giants like Monsanto, Syngenta unleashed a wave of silent killers in the market. People began to report symptoms which were not known before. L-tryptophan was not the only case of allergic reaction to GM foods in the US. In 2001, the US Center for Disease Control and Prevention launched an investigation after consumers reported allergic reaction to a protein found in a bioengineered variety of corn called Starlink.
I felt my chest getting tight and it was hard to breathe. I felt like I was gonna die.
I'm very concerned about this thing that's, you know, a few multinationals and a few greedy businessmen are doing. I mean, they don't care for people, they don't care for the health of the nation or the world, just for a few bucks.
European countries initially hailed the GM food as a new revolution to solve the food crisis in the world. But they became wary of their adverse effects on people's health with the rising incidence of prostate cancer and its link to a genetically modified substance called bovine growth hormone.
There is something called a shock and awe. In Europe, what happened was they were faced first with mad cow disease, and then they were faced with foot and mouth disease. Now, in both these diseases had inflicted a massive destruction of the cattle, and they had to burn cattle. Thousands and thousands of cattle were burnt alive. Now, in that particular situation, they have seen the horror of all these kinds of food and feeds. Now they realize if it can happen to animals, it can happen to human beings also.
The use of bovine growth hormone was banned, but people all over Europe became vociferous in their demand to put a ban on all kinds of GM food in their country.
We demand more studies. That's why also we supported the demand for a moratorium, that we need to know much more about this new technology.
The opposition to GM food united the consumers, civil society groups and farmers like never before.
I myself would never eat GM food because I do not know if it's safe or not. We don't have the relevant information, we don't have enough information about what is happening, and so I would advise you not to eat it because we don't know if it's safe.
In Switzerland, through a referendum, they even forced the government to put a